A land whose beauty is undeniable, truly the setting of a fairy's fable. A place of rivers and rainforest, flowers far from modest, spirits and spriggans, trees and tiny Oregons. A mile-high city atop the tallest oak. A race known as the Forest Folk. A province prouder than the oaks of Grotwood. The breathtaking nation of Valenwood. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the series in which I count down the top 5 locations for The Elder Scrolls VI. The primary purpose of this series is to discuss interesting lore about each province to determine whether the province in question would be a good setting for The Elder Scrolls VI, and to speculate on the likelihood that the province is selected as the next setting. There are 4 criteria used to judge each province on the countdown, and the criteria are as follows: geography, quest potential, creatures, and lore. Today's video is all about Valenwood, home of the Bosmer and my second most desirable location for The Elder Scrolls VI. Let's begin with a discussion of Valenwood's geography, which is by far the biggest selling point of the province. The center of Valenwood consists mostly of forest wilderness, great oak groves, and impossibly high trees. Some of these trees are known to be migratory, walking from place to place depending on the season, and can contain entire Bosmer cities. The coast of Valenwood contains port cities and is dominated by mangrove swamps and subtropical forests. Near the strident coast lies glade areas and grasslands, described as a sea of endless green, a maze of foliage with half-hidden cities growing like the blooms of a flower. Domica redwort is a magical herb with beautiful red flowers that can be found across Valenwood, only adding to the beauty of the province. Many say that Valenwood has little variety, but this is not entirely true. The grasslands, swamps, and great forests would provide a good deal of contrast with one another. Architecture is multifaceted, as there are many Altmeri cities and cities influenced by Khajiit architecture. The weather of Valenwood also varies greatly. Subtropical forests are known for their noticeable seasonal changes, while the rainforests are characterized by heavy rain, the swamps by murky weather, and the grasslands by clear skies. Valenwood can be divided into 4 main regions. Grotwood is the southeastern region, and famous for its many grot oak trees. It is home to the Altmeri city Haven, and its capital is Elden Root, a city built around Elden Tree. Greenshade is the southwestern region, home to Woodhearth, Greenheart, and the Altmeri city Marbuk. Malabal Tor is the northwestern region, and contains the city of Sylvanar, which is the spiritual center of Valenwood. Reaper's March encompasses the northeastern region of Valenwood, and is home to some Imperials and Khajiit, in addition to the Bosmer. It is also home to a large multicultural city called Arenitha, which is a mixture of Colovian and Khajiit architecture. The most famous tree city in Valenwood is Falinesti, a mile-high walking tree city of the Bosmer king. Falinesti is built upon the branches of the largest grot oak in Valenwood, and can normally be found in one of 4 different locations. However, it recently stopped walking for unknown reasons. The only problem with Valenwood's geography is variety. It's certainly not that variety is bad, because as I've already discussed, there is a good deal of variation in Valenwood's geography. It's more that there are other provinces that are just so damn good in the way of variety, such as Elsewhere and High Rock, that Valenwood has a tough time competing with them in this single category. But overall, the incomparable beauty of Valenwood outshines this issue, and it would make a one-of-a-kind setting for The Elder Scrolls VI. Let's now move on to quest potential, which includes a discussion of the factions of Valenwood. Given the affinity of Bosmer for sneaking and archery, sneak and assassin factions in this province would be utterly epic. On the other hand, magic is not as important here as in other Mer provinces, so magic factions could be relatively lacking. However, the Altmer and Thalmor have a massive presence in Valenwood, and we would undoubtedly be able to interact with them a great deal. The Ayleids are a powerful race of ancient elves that once had a presence in Valenwood, and there are many Ayleid ruins scattered across the province. Hectaheim is one such ruin, and contains a mysterious entity known as the Heart of Valenwood. Colovian ruins can also be found in the northern part of the province. Ruins such as these are a big asset, as they provide exploration and side quest opportunities. More quest potential lies in the forests of Valenwood, which are filled with many wonders. As an example, Selene's Web is a hidden forest that is ruled by the spirit Selene, and many other spirits inhabit the forests of Valenwood. The Bosmer have history with the Daedra, as Molag Bal destroyed an entire city in Garotwood during the First Era, and it's said that the Camoran usurper once led an army of Daedra, though that may be an exaggeration. Given this, there could be some good Daedric side quests in Valenwood. In Skyrim, a second great war between the Altmer Dominion and the Empire was hinted at many times, and Valenwood might just be the best place for it to take place in. There are definitely Bosmer on both sides of the conflict, meaning you could have the option to choose a side to fight for. Finally, the Wilder King is an Aedric spirit mantled by a mortal, usually an Altmer or Bosmer. Mantling is a complicated concept, but a rough explanation of it is that it allows one entity to impersonate another entity to the point where there effectively ceases to be any difference between the two entities. The Wilder King has many mysterious powers, and his throne is located above the city of Greenheart. This, along with the Second Great War, has major main quest potential. Overall, the quest potential for Valenwood is excellent, and there would be a lot of big things to do for an Elder Scrolls game set in Valenwood. The next topic to discuss is the creatures of Valenwood. Rare animals such as timber mammoths and senshi tigers can be found in Valenwood. Thunderbugs, who are giant beetles that attack with electrical energy, as well as other large insects, inhabit the province. Spriggans and spirits of the forest are common throughout the land. The Imga, or great apes, are native beast folk of Valenwood who worship the Altmer as their lords and masters. They try to mimic the Altmer by wearing capes, acting noble, and pretending to view humans as an inferior species. The Hollow are a sentient race that serves the Wilder King, made from stone and the reanimated bodies of deceased inhabitants of Valenwood. There is also lots of variety in the races of Valenwood, as it is home to Imperials, Khajiit, Altmer, and of course, the Bosmer. The Bosmer, or as they prefer to be called, the Tree Sap people, are a race of Mer who descended from the Altmer. They are bound by an oath known as the Green Pact, which dictates that Bosmer cannot eat or harm vegetation, resulting in them becoming carnivores and cannibals. The Bosmer have a deep connection to the Ayleids, who once had an empire that reached across Tamriel. The Ayleids eventually fell and were forced to flee from Cyrodiil to Valenwood, where they were eventually assimilated by the Bosmer. This has significantly affected the physiology of the Bosmer. The Bosmer are one of the smallest races in Tamriel, with skin color that ranges from pale tan to light green, allowing them to blend in with the forest and making them masters of sneak. They are also legendary archers and excel in alteration and alchemy. However, outside of this, the Bosmer lack magical affinity in comparison to their cousins, the Dunmer and the Altmer. This is my only true problem with Valenwood as a setting, even if it is largely overshadowed by other positives. One of the primary reasons why Morrowind is so highly regarded is because the Dunmer are steeped in a deep history of magic, and I would love nothing more than for Bethesda to return to something like this. But Valenwood isn't quite the province for them to do it in. Bosmer religion predicates on worship of ancestors and forest gods, many of whom take tangible form, such as the Wilder King. Their main deity is Ifri, the god of forest and song. According to the Bosmer, the mortal plane was in great chaos after its creation, but Ifri helped bring stability to this chaos. The Wild Hunt is an infamous ritual based upon knowledge from these chaos times that transforms all participants into bloodthirsty, mindless monsters that first consume all of their enemies and then themselves. Other important Bosmer deities include Ariel, the elven representation of Akatosh, Eos, the god of animals, and the Wilder King. In sum, with their cannibalistic tendencies and alien ancestry, the Bosmer are a very interesting race. The creatures of Valenwood in general are excellent, and yet another reason why it is such a great setting. The final criteria of this video is the lore and history of Valenwood. Truly delving deep into the topic is beyond the scope of this video, but we will at least go over some important events. The major history of Valenwood begins early in the First Era, when a Bosmer named King Eplier used military force to unify the many disparate groups of Valenwood and founded the Cameron dynasty. Soon after, the Bosmer bound themselves to the Green Pact in exchange for the patronage of Ifri. Amidst the chaos of the First Era, the Bosmer managed to remain independent for over 2,000 years, interacting with the Alessian Order and Skyrim. But this changed in year 2714 when Valenwood was brought into the Remen Empire, after which Emperor Remen razed the cities of Falanesti, Sylvanar, Eldenroot, and more, from small trading posts to large cities and powers in their own right. After the fall of the Empire in the Second Era, the Camerons once again tried to unify Valenwood, but failed, for the people of Valenwood had drifted too far apart from one another culturally. Civil war and clashes with the Khajiit ensued, until the Cameron king turned to Queen Irene and the Altmer, who reunified Valenwood by force. This resulted in the alliance known as the First Aldmeri Dominion. Years later, the Second Era ended with Tiber Septim's conquest of Valenwood. At the start of the Third Era, Tiber Septim wisely allowed the Bosmer to retain some of their independence so as to prevent dissension. Later in the same era, Haemon Cameron, otherwise known as the Cameron Usurper, conquered all of Valenwood in just 2 years. He then began his fateful march north before being defeated in High Rock. Towards the end of the Third Era, Valenwood fought and lost the 5 Years' War with the Khajiit of Elsewhere. They also fought the Altmer in the War of the Blue Divide, in which the Altmer were victorious and took control of several islands controlled by the Bosmer. Soon after, the Oblivion Crisis brought on the Fourth Era, the era of the Thalmor. In year 29, Bosmer sympathizers with the Thalmor attempted to overthrow the Empire in Valenwood. The Empire and its Bosmer allies attempted to fight back, but ultimately lost, securing Valenwood for the Aldmeri Dominion and leaving the Empire severely weakened. This set the stage for the Great War, in which the Thalmor were victorious. Today, there is significant evidence that the Thalmor are cleansing Valenwood by killing those whom they see unfit, which has caused great unrest in the province, meaning a Bosmer rebellion could be on the horizon. Overall, the lore of Valenwood is quite deep, and the province has a lot of interesting history. However, it is arguably overshadowed by a few other provinces. For example, civilization in Elsewhere and the Black Marsh predates the arrival of all men and mer in Tamriel, while the people of the Summerset Isles are closely related to an ancient elven race known as the Aldmer. Elder Scrolls games always take place in provinces characterized by a deep history that is told by way of quests and lore books, meaning lore is a central aspect of what makes a province a good setting. Ultimately, the lore of every province is deep, and the difference between Valenwood and others is rather minuscule, but it's still something to keep in mind. Finally, I'd like to discuss the realistic likelihood that Valenwood is chosen as the setting for the Elder Scrolls VI. I believe it to be fairly likely for a few reasons. First, Valenwood isn't as polarizing as the Black Marsh and certain other provinces. A dark and murky place like the Black Marsh is very divisive as a setting, but few would argue against the beauty of Valenwood's forests, which gives it a wider audience appeal. Second, given hints at a Second Great War, and the fact that Valenwood is right in the middle of the conflict, it's one of the best settings for Bethesda to bring the Second Great War to life. Third, the Elder Scrolls Online has already covered all of Valenwood, so if Bethesda wishes, they already have a rough roadmap of the province, which makes things easier on them. At the same time, it could be argued that Bethesda is less likely to do Valenwood because of this, so as to avoid repetition. Also, the Bosmer's cannibalistic tendencies might be a bit off-putting for newer fans to the series. With all of this in mind, my conclusion is that if 1 is impossible and 10 is nearly confirmed, then Valenwood is about a 6 out of 10 on this scale. In other words, it's slightly more likely than your average province. There's no doubt that Valenwood is an incredible place. Few, if any, lands compare to its grace. From Elden Root, the first tree, to port cities that border the sea. Greenheart and its Wilder King, the Thunderbug and its electric wing. Every sight, sound, and creature, even the tiniest, faintest feature, speak to a beauty that cannot be misunderstood. Here in the province known as Valenwood.